Well, hello, and welcome back. We are on a roll here with some more CSS. Today we're going to be working with an actual form field and how to actually deal with the input values and a submit button. Excuse me, we need to work on the green screen again. We're starting to see some pixelation in the background. Oh, sorry about that. So yes, today we'll be working with the input fields and working with CSS and how to actual style an actual submit button. Let's go on ahead and work with some additional pseudo classes, which were going to be the focus, the active, and the actual hover. Without further ado, let's go on ahead and let's get started. Open up your Visual Studio Code and I'll continue to work on this green screen and fix these issues in the background. All right. Uno, dos, tres. Voila. All right, so now let's go on ahead. We're going to be opening up two different files. And since we're actually working with the actual form, we are going to need to actually build one. So let's first create the actual files themselves. And we'll do that right over here. And of course, you can do this within any editor of your choice. And let's see here. I'm just going to call them hover, active, and focus. .html, and we're going to do the same thing for the CSS file. So hover, active, and focus .css for the CSS file. All right, and you know what? I think as an added bonus, we'll see. Well, maybe we'll try to swing in a little JavaScript on this one as well. But for the bulk of that, you're going to want to go to the JavaScript section. So let's see. Let's open up Live Server, which is an extension that I'm using within Visual Studio Code. And looks like it didn't open up there, so I'll just drag it over here. And I will close this, and I think we are good to go. All right, so first thing we want to do is let's get some bare bones HTML and get that form field on there as well. So let's start with that. Here's our bare bones. So we just need an exclamation mark and we can hit enter after that. And we also want to add the actual CSS file. So link, tab, and then the actual name of the actual file. I'm just going to press tab since my Visual Studio Code editor actually pulls it up for me. And for the title, we're just going to put, let's see what we're working with. Hover, active, and focus. So we'll just leave it like that. Do a little refresh here because we all know for some reason I always need to do a quick little refresh on Live Server. And now let's add some bare bones markup here. So this is going to be an actual form field and it's going to be within, where do we want to place this? I want to place this, well, it's going to be an element. So let's do just a simple form as I press tab and nothing happened. And we're not going to need an action for this. That's just for what's going to happen when the form is actually submitted. Nothing's going to happen on our end. We are going to need an input field. So let's use the input element. And let's see, for the type of text inside it, it is going to just be text. Let's give it an ID. We'll give it an ID of email address. And we'll give it a class of text as well. And let's give it a value just for some default text inside the actual input field. And we'll just put something like enter email address. All right, I think that'll do for that. And we're also going to add a submit button next to that. So let's add the input field again. The type is not going to be of type text. It is going to be of type submit. And this is something that I may have covered this and actually I believe I did, working with forms within HTML. So you can actually go to the HTML portion of this channel and take a look at how to work with actual forms as well. Just in case this happens to look like super new stuff to you. But let's give this a class of submit. And I think that's gonna do it. Let's go over to the styles and make that look a little better than what it looks like. So for the form, we're going to target the form just as we target any other element. So form, that's going to be our rule. Open up the curly brackets, and of course, let's add a width to that. And well, to see what we're working with, let's add a border. I always end up adding borders within CSS properties or elements and tags within HTML just so I can kind of see what I'm working with. So here I'm saying let's add a border of 1 pixel, and it's going to be solid and black. All right, so now I know that form goes the full length of the actual screen. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the width to about 300 pixels. And from there, I'm going to center it. So let's do margin 0 on the top and bottom, and from the left and right, auto. All right, so that brings it to the center, and I can get rid of that border now just because I already know what I'm working with. So I'll just backspace out of that. And okay, so I think that's good. Now let's jump to the actual input. Let's make that look a little better. Okay, so let's add a little bit of padding. We'll say 6 on the top and bottom of the input field. So now you can see the separation of that text and the border of the input fields. That's for the submit and the actual input field. And let's do on the side, left and right, we'll do pixels, 12 pixels. So just to give us a little more space around that actual text. And let's see, do we need a border here? No, we don't need a border here. Let's make sure the color is already defaulted at black, so I think we can leave that. And actually, I think that's good for now. We can leave that. Simple. Now, what we want to do is let's work with the submit button first. So it's an input field. And let's see, did we give it a class? We gave it a class. Why I don't have these separated? Let's right click on the tab and click right, and then close that. Then I can kind of, actually even better, we'll put it on the bottom. There we go. So right click on that, split that down, and then close that. This way we can look at the markup and look at the actual CSS at the same time a little better, and more width to the left and the right. So that's perfect. And again, it's all up to you on how you want to separate these. So let's see, we did give the submit button an actual class name of submit. So let's target that. Okay, and then from there, we're going to use the pseudo class of hover. So this is kind of similar to the actual pseudo classes we used on the links in the previous video. So let's go on ahead, and now when we hover over this submit button, what's going to actually happen? Well, we're going to change that background to an ugly blue. Background color blue. And let's test that. Let's go up here and going over to submit, and there we go. Look at that. We hover over it and the button is blue, but the text is black, which is very hard to see. So let's go on ahead, and when we hover over that, we want the color to be white, the color of the text. So let's go back and hover over that, and that's good. That's much better. We hover over the submit button, so now it's more of a better call to action. When they hover over that, they know, oh, wait a minute, it's blue, something changed, and okay, that means something's gonna happen. All right, but you know what else? I'm noticing that the pointer button, we can do something. Let's get an actual pointer over there. So right now, when we go over it, it's still just the actual arrow cursor. So let's go on ahead and make that change. So let's see, I believe the property for that is cursor, and the value is pointer. Now when we go over that, and now look at that, we got an actual finger, which is right there. All right, so that's much better, much better. All right, so now what's next? Let's go on ahead. That's for the hover and for the submit button. And when it's active, we don't have anything going on when it's active, meaning it was just clicked. So let's go on ahead and target that. So we're gonna go, it's an input button with the class of submit. And when it is an active button, let's change that background color to red. All right, and we've worked with background colors before. We worked with hover and active before. So now let's go over here. We'll click on it. I'm going to click and hold and see if that stays there. So I'll click, hold, look at that. It's active. I'm actually holding down the left mouse key and that is an active button right there. So very good. Not too bad. Pretty simple on that. We got the hover state, beautiful, and we got the active state, beautiful. All right, again, more utility for our CSS styles here. And let's go on ahead. Let's work with, we don't have anything for the input field. The input field's sitting there like, come on, what about me? All right, so let's target that. It's an input field. It does have a class of text because you may have a long list of input fields. So we're just trying to say, okay, just the input field that has a class of text. And let's go on ahead and let's see here. What do we want to do here? Class of text, and when that text is actually hovered, no, it's focus. So now when we tab into that, or if we click in there, what's going to happen? Well, right now we can just change the text color if you'd like. Let's change the text color to green when we are in this field. It's not, there's no focus on it yet, not until I click into it or tab into it. I'm going to click into it, and now the actual text is green. Hard to see, so let's make that font in there. Let's make the font weight bold and see if we can see if it's a little more green now. I'm going to click in here, which is going to bring the focus to the input field. I'll click on it once. And look at that. Now the actual text is green. There we go. And of course it's bold as well. All right, so that's not bad. I like that. I like that a lot. Let's go on ahead and add a bonus. As a bonus, let's add a little bit of JavaScript to it. And so when we click on that, we're going to add an event to that. And don't worry if this is completely out your realm. We cover this in more detail in the JavaScript portion of the actual channel. So let's go. Where can we put this? Normally I would add a separate JavaScript file. I'm going to add that JavaScript file right below the actual page. And that's going to be our little secret. Don't tell anyone else that the JavaScript file is actually in there. And I'm not really going to explain too much with the JavaScript, but just a little bit because I do cover it more in the JavaScript portion of the channel. But let's take a look. I got my markup right above. I need to actually access this particular input field. So I'm going to place all of the essence of that input field within a variable. I'm going to declare that variable using let. And the variable name is going to be address. And of course, you can give it any other name. When we're working with different types of elements within our HTML, we need to work with different types of objects. So our entire web page actually is an object. And it's actually turned into an object. And that object is the Windows document object. All right, and again, do not bank any of this to memory because, again, we cover this more in the JavaScript portion of the channel. And objects, like any other objects, have many different methods and many different properties. And the method, which is also similar to a function, is going to be called, let's get the element by ID. And our ID for this element happens to be email address. So let me just copy that, bring it down below. Okay, and now what we have is everything here, everything that this actual object actually captures, which is this entire line up here, is going to be placed within a variable called address. And I can right click in the console and actually place address in here to see what actually comes up. And when I do that, it's the exact same thing. One, it's highlighted up here. So watch when I go down here, it's highlighted. And this HTML matches the HTML of this first line here. Again, you don't have to bank all this for memory. This is just an added bonus, and it's our little secret. All right, so now what we're going to do is add an event listener. The event listener is going to listen for when I click. The event listener is exactly what it sounds like. We're going to add it onto our variable that we have right here. And we're going to say, you know what? Listen for an event. What event? The event of a click. So I'm going to say laddress, which is the variable. Then I'm going to add a method here called add event listener. And what is it going to listen for? It's going to listen for a click within that particular field. And then we're going to run an anonymous function. That's right, it's getting crazy here. All right, I said it's a bonus, so don't bank it to memory. All right, this is just so when you see it and when you go to the JavaScript portion, you're like, oh, okay, all right, I've seen that before. All right, and the more you start to see different things, the better you get actually, the better, the more you get actually used to it. So here we go. We've just added an event listener to our actual input field. And hey, look at that. We're always really supposed to be covering HTML and CSS, but not bad. We've got a variable here. We declared a variable. We're working with the document object, and we're using an actual function, or better yet, a property of the document object. And that takes in one argument. One argument. And of course, now we're using the laddress variable and adding an event listener to that. And when we click on this, we're going to say do something. Right now, it's listening for a click. So I could say something like, whenever you click in there, say hi there down in the console. So here's our console right here. Nothing there yet. But now if I click in here, now it says hi there. So look at that. Hi there. And of course I clicked there twice. So now it's just saying don't keep running up the screen. So it's now I clicked there 7 times already. So let's just refresh that. Okay. But what we want to do is just say, you know what? Since the input field, we didn't do much work with it. Let's go on ahead and say laddress dot value. So the value of the variable that captured everything here. Now we're just going to say when we click on that, just make sure that the text is gone. So I'm just going to apply that, give it the value of an empty string. So now when I click in here, let's take a look at the text. And now it's gone, just like you see in applications worldwide. And that's your bonus, a little bonus JavaScript there. I know you didn't ask for it, but you deserve it. Why not? That'll be our little secret. Don't tell anyone. But other than that, you did actually work with the pseudo classes, in which you can say, you know what? Where did it disappear to? Here it is. So now you can actually say, wait a minute. All right, get rid of that. So now we've added the actual pseudo classes where you can actually submit. When you hover over that, it changes the color of the text and the background. If we click and hold, it's an active state. So now it's actually red. And when we refresh and click into the input field, the actual text changed before, but we added some JavaScript. So now what we do is when we click in there, that text turned green and bold, and 2, the actual text, because we clicked in there, the JavaScript portion said clear out that actual text. So that is it for today. A little longer than I expected, but that's okay because you deserve to see the actual best. If you any comments, concerns, suggestions, feel free to leave a comment below. Subscribe to the channel because there's always new content being delivered for you, and hit the like button as well. All right. And if you want to see something or you're stuck on something, feel free to give me an email and we'll see if we can work something out, and I can touch base with you. And we can go on ahead and try to fix whatever you're stuck on. All right. Other than that, full stack out.